Hey, what up, world history? This is Mr. View again, and today we're going to be talking about that Russian Revolution stuff a little bit more, and especially about Stalin, that guy you learned about yesterday. We started this unit talking about imperialism, and that is when one country controls another country, right? And there's three reasons that they do that, right? Economic, militarily, and to help the needy. Generally, just for money, though. The Russian Revolution started in right at the end of World War One, and they got out of World War One as a result of that. One of the groups that was fighting to gain power was the Bolsheviks. That's right, the Bolsheviks, and they were communists, right? They wanted to eliminate private ownership, make everybody equal, especially the workers in Russia. And the guy that led them was a guy named V.I. Lenin or Vladimir Lenin. He died, and his wife wanted to bury him, but the communists didn't. They wanted him as a symbol for communism, so they stuck him in the Red Square for 65 years against his wife's wishes. A guy gained power after Lenin, and he was Joseph Stalin. His first name was, or his last name was actually Zhugashvili. He changed it to Stalin, which meant man of steel. And he had these 5 year plans that supposedly every 5 years this was supposed to happen and this was supposed to happen. But there was a lot of problems within Russia. They were very backwards. They didn't have a lot of supplies. They didn't have any money, so most of the people were very poor. And so that's kind of where we go. Stalin creates this kind of superpower, if you will, in Russia and then the Soviet Union. They had a totalitarian government. And your assignment today is going to be to compare totalitarianism versus democracy. Now, total, right? Total, complete, all. Totalitarian means basically they have complete control over a society. And communism is like that. Socialism is like that. They want complete control of society and they want everything equal. And that's just not realistic in a lot of ways. Totalitarian governments, a guy like Stalin who has complete control, or his group that has complete control, they do that in a number of ways. They get control using certain things, right? They have secret police, and those secret police kind of arrest or kill or get rid of anybody that's a critic. They use a lot of censorship in totalitarian governments. They censor the press, right? They want a certain message to go out, and we talk about censorship in America right now with certain news groups only giving one side of something, right? You got different competing news groups, and depending on what you watch, you get their angle and nobody else's. So they use a lot of censorship in these totalitarian governments. It basically says this way is great and the other way is horrible. They use terror, right? They kill people, they eliminate people. Propaganda is part of that censorship. They use that nationalism. We learned about nationalism with World War One as a cause. What was nationalism again, Terry? That's right, extreme pride in your country. And Stalin wanted their country first. They wanted Russia first. They did not want God first, if you will. So they were atheists. That means they didn't want religion within their country. That's another thing. Just like Hitler used a lot of this same stuff in Germany. Right? He did not like Christianity. He thought it was flabby and weak. Stalin, the same thing. They don't want to put God first. They wanted to put country first. In this totalitarian government, they control production, they control wages, and they control distribution. That means that they control every part of a country's economy. Right? So they decide what is produced, how much is produced, and what that good is going to cost. So they're setting the wages. It's not McDonald's versus Burger King and their hamburgers 30 cents and theirs 40 cents or something like that. It's not like that at all. It's the government sets the price on everything. And there's not competing private businesses. The government owns everything. And that's good because they can say what the prices are, but it's bad because you don't get a really good quality of goods. Competition breeds success, but it also breeds better goods, because if my good is better than yours, it'll sell more. So it depends, depending on the price, of course. They did not, like I said, have private ownership of business in the Soviet Union or Russia. It was all government controlled. So you weren't going to go from rags to riches in Russia. You were not going to change your social class. You were going to be in the middle, just like everybody else. unless you had a government job, of course. And then those guys were up here. So corruption was rampant within the government. They got the best housing, they got the best whatever they wanted, and the common people were just supposed to be all equal. They also had equal housing, and you hear that nowadays with the socialists, the democratic socialists in America. They kind of believe that everything should be equal, that everything should be basically free, but then everybody has equal housing too, and that this unequal distribution of wealth, the really rich, that causes a problem when there's a lot of really poor too, right? They want everybody to be on the same level, and that's what this totalitarian government wanted in the Soviet Union or Russia. They did have free education, free medical, free daycare, and cheap housing. Although the housing was supposed to be pretty much all the same, right? So there's some benefits to this, right? We here in America today, we want free education, we want free college, we want free medical. Everybody should have access to equal medical care, whether they have money or they don't. Free daycare is another kind of controversial topic in our country, and definitely they're talking about the cheap housing versus these multi-million-dollar mansions. So there's one there's a lot of similarities between this totalitarian and the socialist stuff that we're spouting today. Some people are spouting in America. Our democracy is much different than this. It's supposed to be different, right? We're not supposed to have a lot of propaganda or censorship. Obviously, there's a big Christian group within the United States. The government is not supposed to control our production or our wages or distribute our goods. We have that ability to go from rags to riches that other places don't have. Like certain socialist countries do not have that. In China, for example, you're not going from the poorhouse to the penthouse. You're just not going to do it. Now, the same in Cuba. Everything is supposed to be right here, and therefore everybody's supposed to stay equal. One of the major problems with that is that if I'm getting paid the same amount as somebody else who's doing less work, that kind of upsets me. There's no incentive for me to work hard because I can't make that $1 million. I can't get that extra fast car or that bigger house. There is just no incentive to do that. The government is not going to allow it. They want everybody equal. Everybody should be nice and fairsies, right? So I'm not going to go on with the lecture today about collectives or the Great Purge with Stalin because I've given you a lot already to think about. I want you to create a chart, right? A chart. Democracy on one side, communism or totalitarianism on the other. Give me 5 details about each government, and then 2 to 3 sentences afterwards about which one is better and why. You can obviously go beyond that 2 or 3 sentences and talk about what is some dangers of this totalitarianism or socialist movement, or you could go say the bad danger of democracy if you'd like. So your choice, but I will check those out and make sure you get everything done. See ya.